Welcome to Edit Mode. You can see that we're in Edit Mode because the Assembly Mode icon is in the top left of the screen. If you ever need to remind yourself of the controls, select that icon with the X button on your primary controller for a reminder. And select it again to hide the controls. To give you something to do, I've hidden a puppet somewhere in this scene, which we'll need in later tutorials. I've left some clues to help you find it. Before we search for the first clue, let's start by looking around. You'll notice that there are two imps in the scene tracking the movement of your motion controllers. If you can't see them, just make sure that you're in front of your PlayStation camera, then hold down the start button on either motion controller until the imps reappear. You can do this at any time to recalibrate your imps if they feel too close, too far away, or off-center. The primary imp is the one with a face. You control this imp with your dominant hand. You can set your handedness in your preferences, which you can find in the options menu. Your secondary imp holds the assembly menu. You can bring it up by holding down the T button on your secondary controller. That's the one underneath that looks like a trigger. Try it now. You won't need it just yet, so go ahead and release the T button to hide it again. Your imps are used to move around the scene in 3D space. Use them to grab and pull yourself around. Simply reach out with your imp, then hold the move button on that controller to grab that point in space. We call this using the grab cam. Try grabbing a point in space. Using either controller, press and hold the move button and just twist and tilt the controller a little bit. Where you grab in space is important, as that's the point your view will rotate around. Here's a good habit to get into. Each time you grab with the grab cam, twist and tilt the controller a little bit to get a sense of where the imp has grabbed in 3D space. Now try grabbing with either move button and looking around you. Is there an orange cone around here? You found it. There's a blue cube around here somewhere too. See if you can find that. Now try looking upwards to find the pink pyramid. That's the one. Okay, let's turn back towards the shapes floating on the island. Reach out with your imp, then hold the move button on that controller to grab that point in space. Then, while you hold the move button, pull that controller back towards you to pull yourself forward in the scene. You can do this with either controller, so you can alternate them to pull yourself along. Use the move buttons to grab cam towards those two shapes on that cloud, then push yourself back away from them. You can even move from side to side in a similar way. Be careful not to press both move buttons at the same time. That triggers another function, which I'll explain in a moment. If you do it by mistake, don't worry. Just use your primary X button to press the red button that appears by your secondary imp. When you're comfortable with moving and looking around with the grab cam, you're ready to move on to the next step. If you want to re-watch this step, you can. Hover your imp over the buttons on the video to see what they do. Use the skip buttons to move between tutorial steps. Or just rewind 10 seconds if you miss something. If it gets in your way, grab and move the video with your imp using the primary T button. You can minimize the video and play along with audio only. Or you can maximize it to watch in instructions view if you prefer. In instructions view, you can see more information about the steps. Once the current step is finished, press the arrow button to move on to the next one. My first clue is hidden somewhere on this island. We should probably look around these objects and see if we can find it. But they're quite large and far away. It would be a lot easier if our imps could reach further into the scene. Luckily, it's easy to change the reach of our imps to suit the objects we're working with. Remember I told you not to press both move buttons at the same time in the last step? Well, now's the time to do just that. Hold your imps so that their tips are either side of the shapes on the cloud. Then tap both move buttons at once. Don't hold them down this time. You'll see a circle with a number in it for a moment. That means your imp reach has changed. You'll notice that very little else will change, but now your imps can easily reach the shapes on the cloud, as if they're at arm's length. That's why we call this maneuver changing your imp reach. Now that you can reach further in the scene, you can easily move around the shapes. Just grab cam onto the shapes and rotate your point of view around them. The point in space where you grab is the point you'll rotate around, so remember to wiggle the imp when you grab cam to check its position. Try that now and look for the clue. Once you've found it, move on to the next step. Did you find that clue? It was on the back of one of those shapes. Looks a bit like a rocket. I do love a cryptic message. Why don't you look around with the grab cam for any rocket-related goings-on? Don't forget to twist and tilt your view a little each time you grab. Ah, look over there, on that island in the distance. Those shapes look a lot like the ones in the clue. That's a long way away. Try changing your imp reach to get us there more easily. Hold your imp's tips either side of the target, then tap both move buttons. Now use your extended reach to grab that island and pull yourself over to it. Simple. Now that you're next to it, you'll need to adjust your imp reach again so you can interact with these objects more easily. Remember, always set your imp reach to match whatever you're working on. With your imps on either side of an object, tap both move buttons. If there isn't an object where you need one, just find something at a similar distance and set your imp reach using that. If you get in a kerfuffle, just select the one-to-one imp reach button near the secondary imp, using X on the primary controller. This will reset your imp reach back to the default scale. And remember, you can recalibrate your imps at any time. Just press and hold either start button for a couple of seconds. Once you reach the island, make sure you're looking directly at the cylinder and the cone at a sensible distance. When you're ready, move on to the next step. Think back to the first clue. The cone was on top of the cylinder, right? But how can you move them? Well, in edit mode, you interact with everything using your primary imp, the very tip of your imp's pointy part. See how there's an icon in a circle there? That shows you what tool the imp is using. Right now, it's the arrows icon, which means the imp is using the move tool. That's the default tool in edit mode, because editing a scene means moving things around a lot. Let's see the primary imp in action. First, grab the cone. Hover over it with your imp then press and hold the primary T button. That's the trigger button underneath the control. Now, that looks pretty good, at least from this angle. Creating scenes in three-dimensional space. Hey, look at that. Another clue. It's a molecule. I know because I put it there. Just play along with me. Why don't you look around with the grab cam and see if you can find another molecule? There's one, over there by that island. You're hot on the trail. We could change our imp reach and pull ourselves there with the grab cam. But there's another way to zip around scenes without changing your imp reach. It uses the move button, like the grab cam, but you'll also need to hold the secondary triangle button. You see, the secondary triangle button is a very special button. You know the way that, on a computer keyboard, holding down Shift changes what some keys do? Well, in Dreams, holding down the secondary triangle button changes what the other buttons do. Maybe it's best if I show you. See that orange cube in the distance? Hover your primary imp over it to highlight it. Now hold the secondary triangle button and then tap the primary move button, which is the grab cam button. You don't have to hold it. Whoa! Fast, huh? Let's try it out again on the rocket you built earlier. Hover over the rocket with your primary imp. Hold the secondary triangle button, then press the primary move button to zoom right on over without changing your imp reach. Try it out again to get back to the orange cube. Look around this island and see if you can find my next clue. Set your imp reach to one of the objects and use the grab cam to look around the island. Remember to choose your point of rotation carefully with your imp when you're using the grab cam. Once you've found the clue, you can move on to the next step. Did you find the last clue? It was on the back of the orange cube. What on earth could it mean? If I had eyes, I would wink at you right now. I can't see any other green trash cans around. Unless... Of course, the trash can is the icon for the delete tool. I'm so devious. That must mean you need to delete the orange cube. You can delete anything in edit mode using the primary triangle button. Just hover your primary imp over the cube, then press the primary triangle button. And it's gone. These tools are powerful. Delete the orange sphere next. If you change your mind or delete the wrong thing, you can undo. Just tilt or twist your primary controller to the left and press its square button. And if you want to redo, just tilt or twist it to the right and press the primary square button. You can undo and redo pretty much anything, not just deletions. Oh look, there was a clue hidden in the cube. An arrow. Perhaps there's another one like it nearby. Look around with the grab cam and see if you can spot it. Once you've found it, you can move on to the next step. That was my final clue telling you where to go. The island right above us. I know you're an expert in moving around horizontally, but let's practice moving vertically. Look up at the island above and set your imp reach to it. Then continue to the next step. Right, here's the puppet I reserved for you. Let's call her Connie, 'cause she looks like a cone. We need to help Connie walk through the door to complete this tutorial. To do that, we're gonna have to switch over to play mode. Remember, right now you're in edit mode. This is where you create and edit your scenes. In play mode, you can experience the scene just like a player would if they found it in the Dreamiverse. You can't make any changes in play mode, but you can take control of characters and try out what you've made. To switch over to play mode, open the options menu by pressing the start button on either controller. Hover over the controller icon with your primary imp, then press X to select it. To control a puppet in play mode, you first need to possess it with your primary imp. Hover over Connie, then press your primary T button. She's full of beans, isn't she? I picked her just for you. Now that you've possessed Connie, hold the secondary T button to make her walk. While she's walking, you can tilt the secondary controller to steer. You can also rotate the camera view around Connie by holding the primary move button and tilting the controller. Practice walking her around, then take her to the door. Oh, looks like the door's too high. There's more to Connie than meets the eye, though. She might be able to reach it if you make her jump by pressing the primary X button. Oops. I remember now. I always forget to put the steps in. Better head back into edit mode. To switch back to edit mode, just press start again and then select the pencil icon. When you're back in edit mode, head to the final step. Did you see those stairs on the island below us? Those might come in handy now, so let me show you a new move to help us retrieve them. There's a quick way to move and change your imp reach at the same time. Let's give it a try. Move both imps apart, then hold both of the move buttons. While still holding both move buttons, move the imps together like you're closing some curtains. This maneuver will move you away from the target whilst extending your imp reach. You'll notice a circle and a number while you're zooming. These show you what your imp reach is. Keep zooming out until you can see both islands, the one above and the one below. If you've deleted the stairs, you can undo by tilting or twisting the primary controller to the left and pressing the primary square button. Just keep pressing the square button until the stairs come back. Okay, now set your imp reach by tapping both move buttons, with your imp tips on each side of the stairs. Then grab the stairs with your primary T button. And, without letting go, move the stairs roughly into position in front of the door. When they're roughly in position, let go of the T button. You can tidy it up in a moment. Now zoom in on the stairs. Position your imps on either side of them, then hold both move buttons and move the controllers apart. When you're zoomed in, let go of the move buttons and adjust the position of the stairs for Connie. If you need to recalibrate after all that zooming about, just hold either start button until the imps snap back to the center of the screen. There, that should do it. It's back to play mode now. Remember, press start, then select the controller icon with your primary imp. You'll be switching back and forth between edit and play mode a lot when you're creating your own scenes. It's a great way to test out your scenes, making sure they look and work just how you want them to. Okay, I think we can get Connie to the next lesson now. All we need to do is walk her through the door. Possess Connie with the primary T button, then hold the secondary T button to make her move. Once you walk through the door, you'll unlock a variety of new tutorials and masterclasses in the Dreams Workshop. Plus, now you've got the hang of moving things around in edit mode, it's time to master manipulating objects. Just as well, because Connie's friend Cuthbert fell asleep in the Dreamiverse and got stranded. Yes, he's a cube with legs. Connie didn't choose her friends. I did. So, we need to fix these platforms if she's going to reach the flag and get to Cuthbert. Before we start, we might need to recalibrate the imps so they're in a comfortable position by holding either start button. It's easier to tell whether you need to recalibrate if you open the assembly menu. To do that, hold the secondary T button. If the menu's in an awkward position or is hard to see, you probably need to recalibrate. It's a good habit to do this every now and then, to keep your imps in check. Before we fix the platforms, let's switch to play mode to see how a player would experience this scene. You'll always need to test things out in play mode while dream shaping, so it's a good habit to get into. Press the start button on either controller to open the options menu. Then select play mode with the primary X button. Its icon looks like a controller. Once you're in play mode, possess Connie with the primary T button. It's easy to remember which is the primary controller and which is the secondary. Your primary controller's imp has a face, while your secondary doesn't. When you're possessing Connie, hold the secondary T button to run forwards. It's pressure sensitive, so pressing it lightly will move Connie more slowly. While she's moving, point or tilt the secondary motion controller left or right to steer her. You can move the camera around Connie by tilting the primary controller whilst holding its move button. Now, start by jumping over to the first platform using the primary X button. Oh dear, looks like it's too far for Connie. Move that first platform closer. To do that, head back into edit mode. Open the options menu and select the button with the pencil icon. Once you're in edit mode, move on to the next step. We have to do something about these platforms if Connie's going to reach the other side. First, let's get a good look at them. Position your imps on either side of the first platform, then set your imp reach by tapping both move buttons at the same time. Then use the grab cam to position your view side on to Connie and the platform. See the dotted outlines? That's where the platforms should be. So let's put them in place with the Move tool. The imp has this equipped by default. To move things, hover the tip of your imp over them and press and hold the primary T button. Move it to where you want it and release the T button. Try it now with that first movable platform. Grab it with the primary T button, line it up with the outlines by moving the controller, then release the T button. You can get a slower, more precise movement if you hold the T button softly. And if you need to try again, just undo your action by tilting the primary controller to the left and pressing its square button. You may have noticed that objects move more freely here in edit mode than in the home space. That's because their auto-guide gadgets are disabled by default in the Guides menu. I'll explain more about this in another tutorial, but for now, you don't need to worry about it. It just means you have more freedom to dream shape. When the platform is in the right spot, you're ready for the next step. Now that the first platform's in position, let's test it out. Open the Options menu and select Play Mode with the primary X button. Connie's on the starting platform, ready for another try. Take control of her with the primary T button and see if she can jump over the gap now. Hope she made it this time. If not, you can always go back and edit things again. In fact, let's try doing that now and see what happens. Select Edit Mode from the Options menu. Look at that. Connie isn't in her starting place anymore. That's because time passes when you're in play mode, and the scene doesn't rewind automatically when you return to edit mode. Instead, things will be frozen in the state you left them when you were playing. Always keep this in mind when switching modes. But you can easily rewind things. Just open the Assembly menu by holding the secondary T button, then select the Rewind button with your primary imp. Make sure you can see the secondary imp as the menu is attached to it. When you press the Rewind button, everything that changed in play mode will rewind back to the beginning. Doing this won't reset any changes you made in edit mode. See? Connie is back to her starting position, but the platform remains where you left it. Try to get into the habit of rewinding time after you play scenes. That way, you'll avoid any problems. There are times when it's useful to leave things as they are after playing, but when in doubt, rewind. Okay, if your platform's in the right place and you've had a successful test run with Connie, you can move on to the next step. Let's sort out the next platform now. It's the middle one that's lying on its side. Now that you know how to rotate objects, here's a useful tip. When you rotate something by hand, like this platform, it might end up a little wonky. But there's a really simple way of fixing that. You can realign an object you're grabbing by tapping the primary triangle button. This will snap the angle of whatever shape you're grabbing to the nearest right angle on the grid. Make sure you're grabbing an object before you press the button though, or you might end up deleting it. If you do delete something by accident, remember you can undo it. Just tilt the primary controller to the left and press its square button. Once you're happy with the position and alignment of the middle platform, you should switch over to play mode and test it out. So, select the controller icon in the options menu and possess Connie to see how far she can get. You're almost there now. Just switch back to edit mode and fix that final platform. Remember to rewind time. Hold the secondary T button to open the assembly menu and select rewind with the primary X button. Now we can go on to the next step. Now the only thing separating Connie from Cuthbert is the final platform. Oh, it looks a bit small compared to the others. I'm not sure Connie will be able to use it, no matter how much you rotate it. Let's learn how to make objects bigger, or as we dream shapers say, scale. Hurrah! Connie and Now the only thing separating Connie from Cuthbert is the final platform. Hurrah! Connie and Cuthbert have been reunited, but now they need to find a way out before Cuthbert falls asleep again. So let's learn how to find a door in the Dreamiverse. Hold the secondary T button to open the assembly menu. The menu disappears when you let go of the T button. This makes sure it doesn't get in the way. So if you can't see it, just hold the secondary T button to open it. Here you'll find all the assembly tools, modes, and gadgets. If you ever wonder what a button does, just hover over it for a few seconds to see more info. This menu is also where the search button lives. It's the one with the magnifying glass. Select it with your primary X button now. The search button takes you to the Dreamiverse, where you'll find all the things created by dreamers from around the world. But for this tutorial, I've selected a collection of elements that you can use in this scene. Let's see if we can find a door in the Start Dreaming collection. Select the collection with your primary X button. Have a look around. What elements do we have here in the collection? Ah, there. Now you know how to grab, rotate, and scale objects. It's time I showed you how to clone things. Cuthbert has managed to get himself stuck again. Luckily, I've set up this scene so that we can use the clone tool to rescue him. With this tool, you can make exact copies of anything in the scene. This makes it one of the most useful tools in a Dream Shaper's toolbox. You'll also get a chance to practice with all the other tools that you've learned so far. If we get Connie off this platform, maybe she'll help us out. Let's use the clone tool on this one small block to create a bridge. Remember how we used the secondary triangle button to modify how the grab cam works? Well, it can also change how the grab button works. Hover over the floating platform with your primary imp and hold the secondary triangle button. Now grab the block with the primary T button. Remember that if you press it gently, you can move the block more slowly. And now you have another block. That's because grabbing something while holding the secondary triangle button creates a clone of that object. Once you've created the clone, you can release the secondary triangle button, but don't let go of the primary T button until you're ready to place it in the scene. When you've found the right spot, release the primary T button to put it down. You can treat a cloned object just like you would any other element. You can move it with the Move tool and rotate it by twisting, tilting, and turning the controller. You can also scale it up and down by holding the secondary circle button and twisting. Of course, anything you do to the block can be undone. Just press the primary square button while tilting the controller to the left. You can even clone the cloned block. Let's do that next. Hover your primary imp over the block. Hold the secondary triangle button, then press and hold the primary T button and move the clone away. You can use the clone tool to build a bridge between the first two platforms. Or you can create floating blocks for Connie to jump on. All that matters is that she can get to the next platform, so make sure you test your work in play mode. When Connie can get across, go back to edit mode, rewind time, and move on to the next step. Getting Connie to that third platform looks easy enough. There's half a bridge between them, so we can just clone this block to finish it off. Okay, hold the secondary triangle button and grab the block using the primary T button to clone it. Let go of the triangle button to stop cloning, then place the clone by releasing the T button to complete the bridge. That doesn't look quite right. Might need to try something different here. Why don't we rotate the clone by grabbing it and turning it sideways? Well, it's better, but now they don't match. We should probably undo everything. Tilt or twist the primary controller to the left and press its square button. This time, we'll make the arches match up by flipping the clone. Here's how you flip objects. First, hover over the arch and hold the secondary triangle button. Then grab the arch with the primary T button to create a clone. Remember, release the triangle button once you've made the clone. You have to release it or the next part won't work. Here comes the cool bit. While still holding the arch, hold the secondary square button and some arrows will appear around the secondary imp. Then simply flick the secondary motion controller to the left. That's all there is to it. Now you try. Hold the secondary triangle button and grab the arch using the primary T button to clone it. Release the triangle button. Finally, flip the arch horizontally by holding the secondary square button and flicking the controller to the left. And don't forget, you can realign the clone while you're holding it. Just press the primary triangle button. Now let's try something else. Grab the arch, hold the secondary square button, and flick the secondary controller up or down. Nice! The arch is flipped vertically instead. We should probably line it up with the first arch now and release the primary T button to place it down. We probably should have flipped it back first. No problem. Just grab it with the primary T button. Then hold the secondary square button and flick the secondary controller vertically. Time to switch over to play mode and see how things are working. If Connie can get across the bridge to the third platform, you're ready to move on. But first return to edit mode and rewind time. Okay, we've almost made it to the door. Ah, but she needs to go across and up now. Good thing you already know how to make clones because we're gonna need them. So hold the secondary triangle button and grab the block with the primary T button to clone it. Now place that clone a little higher than the original and... You know what? There's a better way, so let's undo that. Just press the primary square button while tilting the controller to the left. We're going to try a new technique called repeat cloning. I bet you can already guess what it does. That's right, it lets you make lots of clones at once. Let's give it a go. Hover over the block again. Hold the secondary triangle button and gently grab it with the primary T button. Release the triangle button once you've made the clone. And move the block up and along. Don't put it down yet, though. This is where you become a cloning expert. Without letting go of the first clone, press the primary triangle button to create a second one. And, you guessed it, another press will create a third one. In fact, you can just keep pressing the primary triangle button to create more and more clones in a sequence. And if you make too many, no problem. Just press the primary square button to remove any clones you don't want. As you can see, all the clones are spaced evenly, and you can move the whole sequence by simply moving the clone that's on your imp. If you move the clone up, you can create a staircase. And as always, put it down by releasing the primary T button. Once the clones are in place, they won't be in a sequence anymore. You'll have to edit each block individually. See the dotted line around them? That's a selection. When you put repeat clones down, they're always selected automatically. That means you can move them as a group. If you only want to move one block, you can deselect the group by pressing the primary circle button. If you want to find out more, there's a whole tutorial on selecting and grouping objects. Move on to the next step when you're ready.